we have a couple of troublemaking English teachers who I guess are on their way to make millions. But Svab is one of our upper school English teachers, and he's going to ask you a question.
Outstanding.
Good morning. I'd like to thank the students who came out on their day off and got up early to come and listen to the adults ramble on endlessly. My concern is about the entire premise of the idea of jobs, and my big question: what are the risks of approaching it in that the students are our customers or the students are our clients? If the job that the students have hired us to do, I as an English teacher, they've hired me to do is to help them get into the college of their choice. Well, if they get a C on a paper, then they might come to me and say, well, you're not doing the job I've hired you to do, which is get into the college of my choice. How is me reading John Donne's metaphysical poetry going to help me get into UVA? And I'm concerned about the relationship because I don't think of myself as a salesman. I mean, a little bit, yes. As a teacher, you're selling the thing you're passionate about, which is the subject that you're teaching. But I'm concerned about the relationship and what that does for the classroom setting and for the relationship between teacher and student when they approach it from a customer base. And this is, we're an independent school, people pay tuition, so this might not be as much of a factor in a public school setting. So I guess my question to you, and also I'd like to hear any other student thoughts about this as well, is the risks in that, in the expectation of, well, I've hired you to do a job, so you better do that job.
I think that's a great point, and I think this goes to the part of the heart of understanding what each stakeholder frames their job as. And I think teachers are an independent stakeholder that have a very clear purpose. Now, so I think that's an excellent point. Now, there's a couple ways to take that, but one of the things, ultimately sort of it is what it is if parents and students, and it's probably parents that are making that decision more than students, so in many ways they're probably more of the client maybe than the students at Collegiate, but if they were to walk and leave, it's very much a customer dynamic whether we like it or not. So you have that at play. Now, the good thing is that the parents want you to be doing what you do really well and being passionate about it. So, and that's why they're there. So that's an attribute of this overall job, which is not just be a cookie cutter factory that gives just great grades or whatever else to get them into great places. And by the way, were you to just do that and then your students were to fail at colleges, it would hurt your college readiness rate, your ability to place students in. So I think the dynamic would work out, and I don't think there's as much of a danger there as you might think. But so it's useful to think about it, and I think the macro part of it. So I guess that's the first thing I'd say. The second thing I guess I'd say is my honest hope would be that the whole system of grades gets turned on its head in the next 10 years. And that we move more toward a mastery-based, competency-based idea of learning. And so students work on things until they've really mastered it. And hopefully that means deep engagement with subjects, and only move on to the next topic once they're really ready to move on. And that may be in a couple days, it may be in a few weeks. But that would obviate the idea of grades over time and comparisons if we still had to do that for the sorting process that is college right now. Would be based on how much of the material or how far you had progressed, less on the current notion of ranking students compared to each other within grade level, which is sort of silly because it misses the point that we want every student to really understand what we're teaching. And so it makes time variable so that the learning can be constant. So I guess in my head I also would hope that whole premise would go away as well, but perhaps the dynamic would not, which is a student would say, just accelerate me because I have to be ahead so I can get into Yale. And the reality is if you did that, they'd flop when they got to that college. So I think there hopefully would be enough repercussions the other way and enough parents that don't really want that for their kid because they really want them just to understand how to think and continue to learn, that wouldn't happen. But it's a good question.